and welcome back to a new edition of Harmonic Quick Bits. Today we're going to take a look at the hexatonic concepts. What are hexatonics? It's actually very simple. It's a 6-note scale. It doesn't matter if the scale is actually only 6 notes or if you're taking an excerpt of a scale that turns out to be 6 notes. Now, the way I organize it is in a particular simple way. I'm taking the 3-note per string scales, and from each of the 7 positions of the 3-note per string scales, I then develop my basic 7 hexatonic shapes. These shapes can also then be moved in octaves. Let's take a look at the basic shapes. Now that we have these 7 basic shapes, let's move them in octaves. In this example, I'm just using the first position or the root note position of the Ionian hexatonic scale and jumping from the C note on the E string to the C note on the D string on the 10th fret, and then to the C note on the B string on the 13th fret. One of the important things here is to understand how the 3-note per string scales are actually composed of. If we're taking these 7 positions, we can now understand how, for example, the Ionian scale is broken down into these 6-note elements. So let's take a look. We're starting with the Ionian 6-note or hexatonic scale. Then we're building another 6-note scale from the A string that gives us the Lydian position or position number 4. After that, we're getting the 7th position, the Locrian position on the D string. From the G string, we're getting the Phrygian position, number 3. And lastly, before we run out of strings, we're going to the B string and start our Aeolian position here. And if I were to complete the cycle, I would get the 2nd position, the Dorian position, and then lastly, the Mixolydian position. Now, this spells out 1, 4, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1, and it's a movement in fourths within the diatonic system. So one more time, we're getting C to F to B to E to A to D and then G, and then everything starts over again. I call it music's phone number, and it's a great way to understand how all these scales are put together. The same principle works for all the remaining 3-note per string scales. They just start within a different starting point in the cycle of these 4 movements. The interesting part about utilizing the idea of hexatonic scale fragments is that you can now develop really interesting scalar movements and runs with any type of technique. The important part here is now that you can actually connect your 7 positions of the 3-note per string scale across the fretboard in a very smooth and consistent way. I've developed a few licks to demonstrate this idea, and we're using alternate picking and some tapping and some inside-outside picking techniques for these particular runs. So let's take a look at the first example, which is a very simple 6-tuplet run or 16 triplet note run ascending. And then, of course, I have that also as a descending version. So let's take a look. In this next lick, I'm utilizing a 16th note rhythm, and it is a particular interwoven pattern that combines the picking part, but then also shifts or slides over to the next position in a descending fashion. Let's check it out. In this next example, I'm doing the same thing that I did with the picking example. However, now I'm ascending and I utilize tapping. So let's take a look at that. And lastly, in this example, I'm utilizing what is called outside-inside picking techniques to jump across the different stationary positions that I'm using here only for the Ionian hexatonic scale positions. So it's just 6 notes that I'm circularly weaving in and out until I'm on the low E string. It will take a little bit of time, but I think you can manage the lick just fine. So let's take a look. So as you can see, there's a lot of things you can do with this idea of the hexatonic scale concept, moving with different musical ideas and techniques all across the fretboard. Try to practice this, of course, first in a key that matters the most to you, and then expand to the remaining keys. It will take some time, but once you understand how this all works together, it's going to be super easy for you to either come up with great licks or even just utilize it in a more improvisational setting. The tablature and the diagrams to this lesson is, of course, again available on my Patreon site. So now you know what to do. Go ahead and grab the material and start practicing. Until next time, happy practice and keep on shredding.